Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Chris. Thank you for inviting me on this Yum Cha session. I do have my tea here with me. And yeah, when Chris asked me to come on this Yum Cha session, and then the topic that she gave, homeschooling trend on it, I got really excited because this is something that I've personally experienced and with my own children. And yeah, so I would like to just share my humble experience with all of you today. And like Chris said, introduced me earlier, I've been an educator. I've been in the field of education for the past 24 years. I was trained as an English teacher from the University of Southampton in the UK. And I started teaching in a government school because the training that I got was actually part of the offer by Kementerian Pendidikan that time to train as English teachers. So after we finished our degree, we served the government school. And those were exciting times. We were able to implement a lot of methods that we've learned from the UK. Then later on, I feel that it is time for me. Education Act was introduced after the year 2003 to legalize homeschooling because there were more and more interest in homeschool. And so the government, and then there's this act in which the 1996 act that say that every child in Malaysia must be sent to school, and have a mandatory 6 years of education. And we thought that, as homeschool, it wasn't legal. But then after 2003, with the Compulsory Education Act 2003, homeschool was allowed, which means it's legalized with permission from Ministry of Education. So you can go to Ministry of Education. They do have a homeschooling unit, and you have to ask for permission to homeschool.
Okay, so that means you just have to ask for permission, and there is no such thing as, because some people parents are worried that you have to fill up a form. Is there any way that you register as a homeschooler and things like that?
As much as possible, actually, the government would like the homeschooler to be registered because they want to collect the data, and as you can see in this world map, where is homeschooling legal and not legal, and legal with restriction. So Malaysia is considered as legal.
I think actually now with all this COVID, no matter what negativity has come about, but I believe that in education, there's a lot of goodness that's happening because of COVID. And I think the concern also comes back to this slide that we are seeing now, like about what is happening with homeschool and parents. Like we have a lot of issues where some funny ones that parents start saying that, okay, do you go in the refrigerator at school? And so can you please use your school stomach? And it's like, I'm so horrible at homeschooling. Some parents would say that I keep getting them to watch TV and it's only about cartoons. And it's sad that we also see some parents who really can't cope. Because as I think you and I and all the educators out there will really agree with this, where we have seen like in schools when we used to ask parents to please come and see what your child is doing, do take part in your child's learning, but there's always this understanding that the education is for the teachers to do and the parents will not all of us would jump in to see what the child is really doing in school. But now when the school has got to be pushed to home, we see a lot of issues coming up, and it's a sad thing to see that not all children are definitely having the same experience. And so this has come about. So what is homeschooling?
Yeah, we experimented with our own children. If not, I wouldn't say that we are very confident with the homeschool brand if we have not experimented with our own children. And I have I have friends who have homeschooled their children all the way through from 5 until now, and the children are all in university. And
I think that's actually quite true. You would see the rewards of homeschooling, but for my case, because I only have one child, you see, So I homeschooled him a while, and then I decided to put him in a center.
Yeah.
But I think like many parents out there also
Yeah.
have this concern, like if you homeschool a child, the issue about the
Socialization.
socializing,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so how
Yeah.
do you address that for yourself? You had two boys there, and you were able to create that school-based
Mm.
home, so there's still communication happening. But how about those who are lonely? So how do you
Actually,
address that?
not really. Only the first year when they started before when they started at 5 year old, because they were still struggling with literacy,
Mm-hmm.
that I decided to do one on
Mm-hmm.
one just with them, because I
Okay.
wanted that foundation, lay the foundation. They need to
Uh-huh.
be literate first, So after that, the next year, actually we went for a homeschool
Okay.
co-op in which a few family came
All
together,
right.
and then we teach some classes.
Mm-hmm.
Some parents teach us some
Mm-hmm.
classes and stuff, and then we
Mm-hmm.
also got some tutor in.
Okay.
And
So you develop that community
hmm,
to fall back and engage the
yes, we do.
yeah.
We do have a
Mm-hmm.
community to fall back
Mm-hmm.
to. Then the
Mm-hmm.
homeschool co-op is so
Mm-hmm.
wonderful, because you could do much more like
Mm-hmm.
sports, and then the talent show and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that.
I see.
Yeah, and yet it is still
Uh-huh.
small enough, to give the children a good grounding in
Mm-hmm.
education. And later on, it was much later on that the learning center came
Mm-hmm.
on. We explored the learning center, but we didn't really like this learning center, because we didn't think, um, or maybe it's because of the curriculum of the learning center.
Okay.
So because we didn't think that the learning center suited our boys' personality, and
Mm-hmm.
our own
Mm-hmm.
teaching and learning philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm, that's interesting that you have touched on that, touching our family values, because I believe that in order to homeschool a child, the parent must really know the child and what are the
Mm.
values that they are looking for, and then the purpose of them in the first place to homeschool. If you
Mm.
don't have those purpose and you don't know what is a value, you're just looking
Mm.
blindly, then you can really fall into the trap that you keep putting in one center, then you're not happy, you pull them out, you put in another center, and that itself causes stress for the child, not
Mm.
just for the parents, but also
Yeah.
that uncertainty. And then you decide that, oh, I really can't cope with this, then you want to put them back in schools, which would become an issue thereafter. Am
Yeah.
I right? We can't keep teaching our children the way
Mm.
we learned. So we really don't know what is the job market out there, and things have really changed in these decades. So
Right.
that constant worry of parents keeps our focus. Sometimes it's like siphoning focus. We feel like, okay, we should just focus on the education and stress on the exams, and just go in that part, and the child will succeed. But at the same time, we've had lots of stories where you just focus on the skill, and the child had become a better person, and they really know what to do and what to expect in life now. So there's a lot of mixed understanding and mixed feelings about this.
Yeah, I think
Mm,
the key thing about the education system right now, where it has moved to, is there's a lot of downloading of content. The
mm-hmm,
school gave a lot of content. That's why you study more and more subjects,
mm-hmm,
and not enough
mm-hmm,
skill to acquire the content,
mm-hmm,
because there's so much uncertainty moving forward to the
mm-hmm.
future. Content is not key right now. The
Yes,
key is actually the skill to acquire the content,
yes,
and also the skill to differentiate between good
mm,
content and content that is fake news.
mm-hmm.
In the post-truth era,
Yes,
it's very
yes,
necessary for
yes,
the students to be able to
yes,
question, is this a good
mm-hmm,
source? Is this a trustable
mm-hmm,
source? You know, and
mm-hmm.
those are the skills that students need, and not
Yes,
more and more
exactly.
content.
Yeah, I would really agree with that. I think many of out there would go with this, because now we can start seeing that how do
Mm.
people and the adults and the youths actually getting adapted to whatever is happening right now, because we've come across
Mm.
daily that you can't get your you lose your job and you feel like, oh, that's it, and I'm going to take my life away. There is no
Yeah.
next step, and because we don't really get them to see and think of the
Yeah.
bigger picture and how else can we
Right.
develop ourselves. There's so much out there,
Mm.
but sadly, because of the
Mm.
limitation, we can't really get to where they need to. So there's
Right.
a lot of, yeah, that's why we believe there's a lot of missed opportunity,
Mm.
and hence the reasons for homeschooling in Malaysia.
Because for Chris and I, we believe that it is not about the content, but it is more
Exactly,
about the skill.
exactly.
It is more about the
Uh-huh.
EI, the
Mm-hmm.
empathy, the listening,
Mm-hmm.
and also a lot of those soft skills that you can never learn if uh, you don't get the right kind of mentor or
Yes.
adults relationship or
Mm.
adults who kind of like nurture you, to
Yes.
do better, and
Mm-hmm.
also who knows how to engage you,
Yes. That's why
yeah.
that communication is really important. They would say that constant sharing and learning and not limiting ourselves
Mm.
in the cocoon. I think
Yeah.
your homeschooling has actually helped them to get closer, your family relationship and the kids relationship as well.
Definitely, it's not just a
Mm,
homeschool factor, but of course, it's the parenting
mm,
style and the
mm,
way we
mm,
engage our children. Because, like
mm,
for example, back before, what is that? When they were able to kind of like think and and make decisions, we include them in our decision making
mm, mm,
process. Like for example, there was certain life that we
mm,
feel that they should be involved
mm,
in. So we use the six thinking
mm,
hats. Back then, it wasn't very popular. It was not used in
mm,
school, but we used it to engage our children to kind of
mm,
like see how they feel and
mm,
help our family to come to a decision that considered our
mm,
voice also. And I
mm,
feel that, some parents say, these are little children. They shouldn't be involved in any
mm.
decision making. We
But
didn't
I
feel
think
that.
that would, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That will really help that quality interaction. That's why
Mm,
we read quite a lot of research saying that
mm.
students of kids who are homeschooled, they actually have a good quality interaction with peers and
Yes.
adults, and they really are
Yes.
respectful, and they can really
Yes.
blend with real life application matters. They have
Mm,
this ability to think and really fall back to family.
yeah.
So that's why I went to your, family relationship is really
Yeah.
important when it comes to you will really see the
It's
difference.
definitely true for my
Mm,
eldest. He can
mm,
seamlessly communicate across,
mm,
not just with his peer, with
mm,
adults, with my
mm,
friends, with my husband's
mm,
friend. Not
mm,
until now.
mm.
So it was
That,
really
yeah.
good.
So that
Yeah.
are the part of the good benefits of
Yeah.
homeschooling, I would say. And now, like, can you just let go through this like trend in Malaysia? Like, of course, we see now it's on the rise because suddenly it's just mushrooming that everywhere you just see like there's an overload of information about homeschools. Yeah.
Yeah. If you look at the trend of homeschooling, right, the reason it's anchored back to the reasons for homeschooling, and the key reasons for homeschooling in Malaysia is parents want to be more involved in the child's education in meaningful way.
Mm-hmm.
And also, a second most compelling reason is because of
Yes.
religious belief, integrated
Right.
syllabus. Okay, and we also know Muslim
Yeah.
homeschoolers who decide to use the more Muslim
Mm-hmm.
curriculum. Okay, not just of course homeschool, since it came from America, it was very
Mm-hmm.
Christian based also,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Later on, when we talk about
Yeah.
curriculum, you will understand why. Huh?
Yeah. Right.
And the flexibility of the homeschool syllabus is another thing that entices
Mm-hmm.
some homeschooler, and um, you know, and the
Mm-hmm.
child-centered approach. And some homeschoolers are attracted to the specific and rigid homeschool syllabus for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say it depends
What
on
is the aim?
your philosophy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. and the high quality of interaction with peers and adults,
Mm-hmm.
and gadgets and computer roles in syllabus and teacher-centered approach. Actually, these did not score as high as
Mm-hmm.
the other reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you look at the homeschooling trend in Malaysia, based on this prediction, the trend is will be increasing trend. Why is it so? Because because of the education syllabus, the quality of the education syllabus. Since a lot of parents seems to see the quality of the education syllabus as low, so that's why it driven a lot of parents to look for alternative education like homeschool.
Exactly.
And also, there's an increasing social issues here, a lack of inclusiveness and a lot of different things here.
Yeah,
So
and I believe
because
it's also the
yeah,
language because the focus they want to go back to English teaching, and there's some
right.
issue that arise from there. So that itself has brought quite a number of parents to focus on homeschool, where they can just teach their child the way they want to.
think, there are pros and cons. I wouldn't, say that it depends on your needs. Actually, it's not for everyone, but it
Yeah.
depends on your needs.
Yeah, and that's where we go to this topic of the talk for today, like homeschooling trend or need. Yeah, I really like what you have put here. Homeschooling is a growing trend that meets specific needs. Because like what we've been discussing earlier, and we were saying that at times the focus is so much bogged down into academic of schooling, and we fail to understand that we need to raise competent, caring, literate, and happy children at the end of the day. And that's when yeah we tend to end up in this uncertainty of what should I do, and that is definitely causing stress for many parents out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I think this would also highlight on the benefits of homeschoolers. We do have this concern whether homeschoolers, do they actually get to go to college, what happens to the formal education, will the child be able to get any certification and things like that. So I do see here on your homeschoolers do get to go to college, as what you have said, your own children, they are up in college now.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have data available in
Mm-hmm.
Malaysia, but the most mature country where there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of homeschoolers is in the States. And so these are data from the States from 2004 to 2009.
Mm-hmm.
There are actually more homeschoolers that graduated college. A lot of people went to college, but they never graduate. Yeah,
I see.
or
Yeah.
they don't graduate in 4 years. They graduate maybe 5,
Mm-hmm.
6, 7, or 8 years later. But
Mm-hmm.
homeschoolers, their higher percentage of them, 66, about 67% of
Mm-hmm.
them, graduate,
Mm-hmm.
college compared to 58% from public school,
Mm-hmm.
and they
Okay.
also earn higher
Yeah,
GPA compared to
because
the
I think that's actually going back again to the focus of homeschoolers, because you don't end up like learning everything, but you focus on what you want to major in and what is your interest and how do you want to learn. So that actually has developed a lot of homeschoolers who are really uh, aware of their needs and the purpose of them schooling. Because I remember reading this research which said that homeschoolers actually 100% of homeschoolers read more books than any other formal school students,
yeah.
because they are yeah they have that opportunity, and the parents are there to be with them, and that itself is I believe that's an enlightening thing to hear, that you really don't waste time. And we've got quite a number of parents who've asked us these questions on, like, I think you addressed this just now, how or where do I register to homeschool my child. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for Malaysian parents,
Mm-hmm.
then you go to your state JPN, Jabatan Pendidikan Negeri, and then you go to the homeschooling unit, and then ask for permission to homeschool. That's the
Mm-hmm.
first step, and so then you have to decide, whether you want to personally be the teacher
Mm-hmm.
to homeschool. uh, Either you are in a co-op or as a teacher parent, you still have to be
Mm-hmm.
teaching, maybe not all the subject, but unless you send your children to learning center, that's different. So you gotta explore.
So
and
you
is there,
explore the curriculums and understand what you're going to do first before you jump into homeschooling.
you have
Yeah.
to do a lot of research first, and then to find out whether this is for you. Chris and I are here to that you can talk to, because we homeschool our own children, and they do go back to not public school, to international school or private school. Okay, but it is still possible.
That's one main concern of many parents out there, because if they pull out their child from a public school to homeschool, then they will not be able to put the child back into a public school. But they are allowed to take the exams, for example, SPM, as a private candidate.
Yes. SPM you can take as private candidate, SAPM also. But you can, because the thing about for my children, they didn't go back to public school because of the medium of instruction. The medium of instruction for them were mainly in English. And whereas public school requires you to know BN. And right now there are also private school that is taught in English medium. But they use the Malaysian curriculum. So there are more choices actually back to that's available for parents compared to like 17 years ago.
And also, I believe, like now with the COVID situation, there probably bound to be some changes in our education system, which we never know what will happen until things
like, for example, you don't starting last year, they don't take your PSR anymore. So which means with the UPSR gone, you can re-enter into Form 1, because they won't require your PSR result. Because all the public school students won't have that either. Okay, so that actually opens up the path for you to return back to public school if the students know BN, right? Which means you may have to get your student to learn a subject, BM as a second language instead of English as a second language. Something like that.
I think for that you still have you may have an issue for when you return back. You're saying return back to public school, because when you bound to homeschool, unless you are sharing according to what exactly the school is teaching based on that particular syllabus and that year level, then it's fine. But if some parents, we will notice that our children, we've already gone beyond, and we are able to actually drive them to the next grade, and you see them progressing well, you want to keep moving. Once you move and you jump grade, you won't be able to go back to public school, because that's what I experienced with my own child, because there is no entrance exam when you go to public school. But saying that again, with COVID, probably situations could change. We never know. So it's really good to stay in touch and see what's really happening out there with education, so that we will know what is the current updates that is available for us.
I agree with Praise in that respect, because going back to public school, in terms of like how they place the student placement, right, is according to age, is again according to what they have studied and stuff like that. So you cannot accelerate. You cannot, like, for example, jump another grade. If you are ahead of your peer and stuff like that. Because they're very fixed in how they do their student placement. The majority of it is based on age of the student. Whereas for our children, it's different, because like for the boys, they went from the American system to Aussie system, British system, then back to American system. And they were able to
all-rounder. We are coming to that actually, because when you told me that, I was really curious to know, like, how did you do all that? So I'm really
not me, actually not me, it's the boys. They were very resilient. Of course, there was some transition period, because especially with spellings and stuff like that, they spell the American way, spell the British way, and then they standard structure, stuff like that. they have to get used to it.
Yeah.
But to me, I really, to me, I kind of like applaud my boys because they were resilient in transitioning from one
Yeah.
system to another. And
And that's why we are coming to this now, like how to choose, because we know there is not a best homeschool curriculum, and only the curriculum that will work best for your family and your child. So as what we have seen, research, you need to research, and you may want to ask yourself, actually, not as ask yourself, what type of learner is your child. So for that, we actually at our in our website here, we have provided, like what we were saying earlier about multiple intelligence. So I really strongly believe, I think you will agree with me, Dr. Sylvia. If you don't know your child, you don't know what is their focus area, which is their concentrated intelligence, where does it lie, it will be really difficult for us to understand how to move about with the child unless we know them really well. Okay, so for many parents out there, you can go out and try out the quiz on multiple intelligence at our website, easyedu.com.my, and you can see it's actually free. That's for you to understand your child and where is their area of intelligence, actually. And that doesn't mean if they are not good at something, they cannot learn that. It's just for you to know and identify and to see which curriculum or what subjects that they would love to take. And how comfortable are you in acting as the teacher, like what you said earlier, Dr. Sylvia? And also the curriculum and how to progress, how does the program for offer academic support, and is there a generated academic records which you need to keep? Like I believe you actually shared it earlier. If you want to homeschool your child, you need to have those track records. Am I right?
You do have those track records and the immunization records. You know, that's what we found out when they went back to school, especially the American school and American university. They do require that. That's actually a key thing. Yeah, and because you're not in public school, some immunization you may miss. You know, whereas in public school they offer it free of charge to the school. I remember back then my mom didn't even have to worry about that because the school is the one who track this, you know, and offer it to all the students. But then as a homeschooler, you have to track that yourself and then just immunize them when it's time.
That's why as parents now, I think like when we see that our child is studying at home, there's a lot of things that we need to do. Like I remember hearing it from my mom and my aunties and all. They were saying like back then we just put you in school and everything just happened well. But now I don't know what are you guys doing with all this education thing, so they're really confused. But
equally, it's not it's unfair to compare our time. We were socialized differently. You know, like for our children and even for the younger children now, you know, they live in a very uncertain time that requires different skill to mitigate through life. And for us, so we live it in a very stable, peaceful time. And
I think that word is peaceful.
Yeah, peaceful time. You know, very carefree. Back then it was very carefree. We were able to do a lot of things. And at this juncture in life, we also, as an adult, have to relearn some of those skills to mitigate through life, going back to the future, going forward to the future.
Forward to the future.
Going forward to the future. So, and then for our children, they have to mitigate it earlier on. But for us, we mitigate it as is, as we are right now. But everyone will have to learn to relearn, and that's why the important thing is to know when to unlearn, relearn, and learn.
Okay, now moving on to the options for homeschooling.
Okay, so the one that these are some of the more established curriculum from the States. Right now, there are much more, like from China, there also, you have the Taiwan, Taiwanese, the Chinese, they also come with all these different curriculum. And I'm sure you can take the senior high exam, the Chinese senior high exam, as private candidates as well. So that's the Chinese part of it. And then you have the Muslim curriculum. But the one that I'm most well versed is the curriculum from the States, because when we first started, these are the ones that are more established. Right?
Yeah.
So there are this classical one where you read those classical books and all this. I'm not really into this, but there are parents in the States that are more into this, and they have a very extensive reading program, very structured, and you read all those literature like Shakespeare is Brits, yeah, but then the Americans have their own American literature.
Yeah.
So the big, those big books. And what I really like about this is, but I mix and match because I did the Socratic dialogues with my children. Okay, so this one, encourages anchor on the Socratic dialogues in which you keep on questioning. Questioning, is very important, and curiosity is also very important, because this curriculum actually pushes the student to go beyond just comprehension and skills training to achieving and reaching understanding of self and the world. So this actually helps the student to see the bigger picture. You are a self within your community, your family first, then your community, then your nation, then the world. And this actually helps to nurture that togetherness, to nurture that understanding from a differing perspective. Actually. Okay, so if you like that, you can go with this one.
If you're able to see it on the screen. Otherwise, options will be like, of course, for Malaysia, we don't have UPSR currently, and there is PT3. There's also some uncertainty. Same goes to SPM or STPM. But if we are homeschooling our child, and what we have shared earlier, and you need to send them to a center, or you need to register them for exam. Okay, like what we have shared here is for standard 6 level and year 9 level. If you are in a school, there will be this exam called a checkpoint. A checkpoint is actually not something which is certified for you to not to get a certificate, but you can actually understand where your child stands, and that is only done at the school. So you won't be able to register as a private candidate for it. But if you are at a center, then you will get to do this checkpoint exams just to know where your child stands. Otherwise, of course, it's just to the IGCSE, the O levels, the A levels exam, or if you choose the American pathway, then it's the SAT. So maybe since you're quite very familiar with the American pathway, you can let us know how do they register if they decide to do the American pathway, Dr. Sylvia.
Okay, the American pathway, okay, let's say you start from primary 1, okay. Actually, the Americans are very, what is that, they focuses a lot on your transcript, so you have to make sure that, whereas the British don't have that extensive transcript, but the Americans want the transcript to the detail, so you have to keep that, yeah. So when you start from year 1, you have the primary school syllabus. Some of the curriculum that's out there is good for primary school, but then when you come to middle school, it's not so good. So you have to change up the curriculum. Then later on, they have a middle school or junior high school, which is a year 7 or 8, and then only you do your high school, year 9 to 12. When you are at high school, the American system allowed you to mix and match different, just like in college or university, different subjects depending on which pathway you want to go to. And then at the end, you take a SAT or ACT, or you take both. And then the American system also allowed for advanced placement. And these are credits that do transfer to university. Some of them, depending on the university, that they take at year 11 and 12.
Mention that your son actually took both the SAT as well as the A levels. Am I right?
Yes, not A levels. He finished IGCSE because he went to international school, so he did the IGCSE. He took IGCSE. So after he completed IGCSE, we went back to America and went back to American high school. Then he took SAT because I think most colleges or most what is that, university, they need to see 12 years of schooling. IGCSE is only year 11, so you're lacking 1 year. So he went back to do year 12, and then after that he sat for his SAT, ACT, and then he took some advanced placement. And from there he went to university. But when they mapped the IGCSE plus his SAT, ACT, and AP, and also they map it to his high school diploma. Because when you graduate high school, you get a diploma. And so they map it to his diploma, and he managed to do an advanced diploma. So which is pretty good, you know. And after IGCSE is already optional whether you want to do A levels or IB, or you want to transfer. IB is also you know, international. Another option, or foundation. Now the Australian came out with the foundation, but foundation does not transfer as easily as all the others, because foundation is actually a pre-university, just like our matriculation, that is developed by the university.
Actually that's right. So the key thing I would say from here is like for us to really know and be aware of what's really happening out there, and to be able to understand and to keep with the community, and to stay abreast with whatever is happening in the education system. So go out there, that there's lots of information, know what you're doing, and understand what is the goal at the end of the day when you want to homeschool your child. So for now, like, there's a lot of options, and you can actually see if you really are keen to put your child in a self-paced learning, or you want your child to really sit in a group, or you want to be teaching them alone, or what is the subject that you want to focus. No, there's just so much out there. So I really strongly would say that you could go and trial out, really learn up, you know, take this opportunity and make the most of it.
I agree with Praise, because as a homeschool parent, you're also learning together with your children, and every step of the way is a learning journey. And and it's not easy, but it's worthwhile, you know. So think carefully, and there's always options, you know. We just have to be we just have to explore those possibilities, and don't be locked into impossibilities. You know, there's so many possibilities out there.
I think the major thing is, like, at least now we know that it is legal in Malaysia. We do have that, we can do it. And just as long as we keep our track record of whatever the student has been doing, keeping all the assessment, or whatever feedback that we get from whichever way that we decide to homeschool our child, that is most important. So we know that there is a track record of what the child has been doing, and we can't go and say, like, I don't have anything to fall back. So we are all
some curriculum. Some curriculum also is attached with the testing. So they do have the test that you can also administer to your child at every grade level.
So like I think there is a lot of opportunities, and I would really say that there's we are all in the same shoes. Actually, we are not different from another at this current time. So just reach out, you know, you can share and ask questions, and we'll be ready to answer if there's any queries. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Dr. Sylvia. I think we didn't have time for our yamcha at all.
I drank my tea though.
Okay.
Thirsty today.
Thank you so much. I think it's really been an enlightening session for me itself to learn about homeschool. And we are very sorry for all the glitches. We'll share the slides, and at the same time we'll share the recording in we'll try to streamline it so that it works well with the slides. And thank you so much for joining the session. Thank you, Dr. Sylvia.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone.
All right, see you.
Bye.
Bye.